All right, let's dive right into the future of Moroccan football. Coming off that incredible World Cup run in 2022, I bet you're all wondering what's next, right? Well, we've got our hands on this fascinating article. Feels kind of like a secret strategy doc, and it's full of clues about where Moroccan football is headed. We're going to break it down together, figure out, is this just hype, or are we looking at a real footballing powerhouse in the making?
You know, what really grabs me about this is it's not just about one or two star players, you know what I mean? The source seems to be pointing to a system, a long-term plan that goes way beyond the guys on the field right now.
Yeah, they mentioned some names we all know, Hakimi, Boufal, and Nasiri. Those guys were on fire in 2022. But then they spend even more time getting hyped about the next generation. El Khanous, Ezel Zuli, any of those names ringing a bell?
Maybe not yet. And that's exactly their point. See, someone like Hakimi, he's already a top fullback, world class. But it's the way he plays that's important. Fullbacks today, they're not just defenders anymore. Hakimi pushes forward, creates chances, almost like a winger. Remember that assist against Belgium? Perfect example. That kind of attacking fullback is changing the game, and Morocco's developing a whole wave of players like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. But then the article goes on about resilience and passion when it comes to these younger guys. Is that just typical sports writing, pumping them up? Or is there something more to it?
I think it hints at a shift in their approach, like a cultural thing almost.
Huh.
They're saying the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, the FRMF, isn't just looking for raw talent. They want players with a certain mindset, a mentality, almost like they're trying to build a national footballing identity.
So it's not just about individual skill, it's about finding guys who fit a certain mold, a team mentality, starting to see why they're so optimistic. But hold on, they go on and on about these state-of-the-art facilities they've got. Isn't that just PR talk? Every team says they have the best training grounds these days.
They do, but in Morocco's case, there's some substance to it. This Mohammed VI football complex, it's not just a fancy name. It's the real deal. We're talking cutting-edge tech, top-level coaching staff. Everything designed to create a high-performance environment. It's like a football university, not just a training ground.
Wait, a football university? That sounds pretty intense, but how do you actually teach things like tactical awareness or cohesive systems? Those are the phrases they keep using. Can you really learn that from fancy equipment?
You can't. And that's where things get really interesting. The source talks about these grassroots programs they're expanding as a key part of their strategy. Imagine being a kid in Morocco right now. All this World Cup excitement around you, and suddenly football's accessible, not just watching it, but playing it, learning the fundamentals, maybe even dreaming of joining the national team one day. What do you think? How would that shape a young player?
Well, I know for me, just messing around with friends in the park is what got me hooked on football. So yeah, having organized programs, good coaching from a young age, I can only imagine how powerful that'd be. It's like they're trying to create a whole generation of football fanatics.
And that's the kind of foundation that can support success for years to come. This isn't about a quick win. This is a long game. We're only seeing the early stages of this whole thing.
Okay, so we've got the talent, the system, the facilities. But what about actual goals? The source mentions things like going further in the World Cup, maybe even hosting tournaments one day. Isn't that setting the bar a little high? Potential is one thing, but actually achieving it is another.
It's ambitious, for sure, but it's not just empty talk. They specifically mention Vision 2026, and it seems to lay out a pretty clear plan.
Vision 2026, what's that all about? What are they focusing on?
Well, one core piece is strengthening the national team. But we're not just talking about the players themselves. It's about scouting talent all over the world. You need the right people for that. Expert coaches, of course, to develop that talent. And then you've got sports science, data analysis, optimizing performance. It's like building a high-tech machine. Every part has to work perfectly.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about all that. So it's not just about finding 11 great players. It's about building a whole structure to support them.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach, right? Focusing on long-term development, sustainable growth.
Okay, that makes sense for the national team. But they also talk about improving the domestic league as part of this Vision 2026. Why is that so important? Seems like a separate issue from the national team's success.
It might seem that way, but it's actually crucial. A strong domestic league gives young players a place to develop, to show off their skills before they even think about the national team. And when the league is competitive, it attracts more investment, better coaches, and that raises the level of Moroccan football overall.
So it's like a ripple effect. A strong domestic league feeds into the national team and vice versa.
Exactly, it's all connected. Like, if a player from the Moroccan league gets a big move to a top European club, that not only boosts his career, it shines a light on the whole league. Scouts start paying more attention, young players get inspired, the cycle continues.
Fascinating. Seems like they've really thought this through, not just about quick wins, but building a sustainable system, something that benefits Moroccan football for years to come.
And that's what makes this whole thing so intriguing. They're not just chasing trophies, they're building a legacy, creating a future where Moroccan football is a force to be reckoned with on the world stage.
Yeah, I'm starting to get pretty excited about this. But, one thing that stood out to me was how much they emphasize the fans. They call them the 12th player, which isn't a new idea, but they really seem to mean it.
And they've got good reason to. Think back to the World Cup, those scenes of Moroccan fans celebrating. The energy, it was contagious.
Oh, absolutely. Impossible not to get swept up in that. But how much of it is just cultural enthusiasm for football, and how much is a deliberate strategy from the FRMF, to harness that energy?
Probably a bit of both. Moroccans are definitely passionate about football, but the source suggests the FRMF is actively cultivating that fan culture, recognizing it as a real asset. They know that unified, passionate fan base can give you a real home advantage, and not just for the national team, for every level of Moroccan football.
So they're saying, we've got this incredible energy from our fans, let's use it to our advantage.
Yeah. Exactly. When you see those crowds of red and green chanting, singing their hearts out, you can't deny the impact it has on the players. Like a surge of energy that lifts the whole team.
That's a cool way to think about it, tapping into that collective spirit, a shared passion that goes beyond the game itself.
And that's what makes this whole Moroccan football thing so compelling. It's not just tactics, training, it's about culture, identity, a whole nation coming together, pursuing this shared dream of football greatness.
Okay, gotta admit, you've got me hooked. This deep dive is way more insightful than I expected. But before we go too far, I have one question that's bugging me.
Oh, what's that?
This source is super thorough, but there's one big thing missing: women's football. Not a single mention of it.
You're right, that is a pretty big detail. Makes you wonder.
Yeah, is this a blind spot in their big vision? Or are they just focusing on the men's game for now, with plans to develop the women's side later?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And unfortunately, this source doesn't give us any answers. It's almost like women's football doesn't exist in their world.
Honestly, that's a bit concerning. I mean, it's 2025. You'd think any serious plan for the future of football would include women's football, right? Starting to wonder if this Vision 2026 is as comprehensive as they make it sound.
It's definitely something to think about. Maybe we'll find some clues in the rest of the source material.
Hope so. This whole conversation has gotten me curious about the state of women's football in Morocco. Feels like a whole other story waiting to be told.
And maybe a chance for Moroccan football to achieve even greater success in the future. Imagine both the men's and women's teams competing at the highest levels. Now that would be remarkable.
That would be a story for the ages. But for now, let's take a step back, reflect on what we've learned so far. Morocco's doing a lot right, no doubt, but there are still some unanswered questions.
True, but that's what makes this deep talk so interesting, right? We're not just passively taking in information, we're actively engaging, challenging assumptions, coming to our own conclusions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So listener, as we head into part 2, I want you to think about what we've discussed. What stands out to you as the most impressive part of Morocco's approach, and what questions are you still wrestling with? Hold on to those thoughts because we'll be tackling them head on in the next part.
Back again for our deep dive into Moroccan football. It's clear from this source material that they're not just riding the wave of that World Cup success, they're building something that will last.
I'm right there with you. That whole Vision 2026 thing, it really got my attention. Feels like they're setting the stage for something much bigger, not just a few good years on the international scene. But they keep using this phrase, holistic approach, when it comes to developing players. What does that even mean in football? Is it more than just drills and tactics?
It suggests they're thinking about the whole player, not just physical skills and how athletic they are. They're talking about developing well-rounded people, character, leadership, even things like education. It's all part of it. You can have a team full of crazy talented players, but if they don't work well together, if they can't handle the pressure, it all falls apart.
So it's not just about finding superstars. It's about shaping the kind of players who can succeed on a team, handle the mental side of things, the pressure of professional football.
Exactly. Fostering a culture of excellence that goes beyond the pitch. They want to build a team that's resilient, adaptable, and capable of achieving success over a long period.
Okay, I'm following you. But there's another part of Vision 2026 I'm still trying to grasp. They mentioned Morocco possibly hosting major tournaments like the Africa Cup of Nations or even, the World Cup. Is that even realistic, or are they getting a bit ahead of themselves?
It's definitely ambitious. Hosting something that big isn't just about having a few nice stadiums. It's infrastructure, logistics, security. It's a huge undertaking. And let's be honest, Morocco has faced some doubts before about handling events of that size.
So it's not just about throwing a big party. It's about proving to the world they can deliver a world-class experience.
Absolutely. And just bidding for these tournaments, win or lose, it sends a message. It says, we're here, we're serious contenders, and we're ready to compete on the global stage.
That makes me think about something else the source highlighted. The passion, the dedication of Moroccan football fans. They call them the 12th player, which, it's a bit of a cliche. But honestly, after that World Cup, I kind of get it. But beyond the cheering, the atmosphere, how does this fan culture actually impact football development in Morocco? Is it really that important?
It's more than just noise and colorful displays, that's for sure. It creates this feeling of shared identity, of belonging. Think about it, in a country with so many different cultural influences, football brings people together. It's common ground. And that sense of unity can be incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to supporting young talent.
So it's like this positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
The national team's success gets the fans fired up, and that inspires the next generation of players.
You got it. It's this back and forth where everyone benefits. And when you have that kind of energy behind you, it can make a real difference.
Okay. Starting to see the big picture, but I have one more question about Vision 2026 that's been on my mind. The source talks about partnerships with European clubs, like it's a key part of the plan. Wouldn't those clubs be a bit hesitant to share their secrets, their knowledge, with a potential rival?
It's not as simple as one side wins, the other loses. European clubs are always on the lookout for talent, right? And Moroccan players, with their skills and tactical awareness, they're becoming more and more appealing. It's a situation where everyone benefits.
So it's more like a trade. European clubs get access to new talent, and Moroccan players get to experience top-level coaching, better facilities.
Exactly. And it's not just players they're sharing. It's ideas, techniques, whole philosophies of football, like a blending of football cultures. And that can only be a good thing for both sides.
It's interesting how this all comes back to that idea of building a sustainable system, not just winning now, but creating something that lasts for generations.
Absolutely. And a big part of that is making sure everyone benefits from the success, not just the elite players at the top.
Right, and that brings us back to those grassroots programs. They're not just about finding the next Hakimi. They're about giving everyone a chance to play football no matter where they come from, their background.
Precisely. When you create that kind of environment, you're not just developing players, you're building a community, a whole football culture that spreads throughout society.
It's like they're planting seeds all over the country, and some of them are bound to grow into something special. But as much as I love this idea of Morocco becoming this football powerhouse, I can't help but wonder, are there any challenges, any roadblocks that could get in the way?
Good question. No plan is perfect. There are always unexpected obstacles. One challenge is keeping those development programs going strong, consistently. Creating a buzz is one thing. Keeping that momentum going over time, that's the hard part.
So they can't just rest on their laurels. They have to keep pushing, keep working to make this something truly special.
Exactly. It takes commitment, discipline, and a willingness to adapt to keep evolving. And of course, there are always things outside their control. Economic problems, political instability, even things like global pandemics. Those can have a huge impact on any sport.
True, you can't plan for everything. But even with those challenges, it seems like Morocco has a pretty good foundation to build on.
They do. And it's clear they're thinking long term. Not just about winning today, but building a system that will benefit Moroccan football for decades. And honestly, that's what excites me most about this whole story.
Me too. It's inspiring to see a country so dedicated to reaching its full potential in football. It's like they've tapped into something special, a collective energy that's pushing them forward. But, there's still one big issue we haven't addressed.
You mean the lack of any mention of women's football?
That's the one. We've talked about all these amazing developments, this big vision for the future, but it's like women's football is completely missing from the story.
It is a strange omission, for sure. You'd think any serious plan for football's future would include women's football. Makes you wonder if their commitment to inclusivity, to sustainability, actually extends to all levels of the sport.
Honestly, I'm a little disappointed. Feels like a missed opportunity, and it raises some questions about what their priorities really are.
It does. And it'll be interesting to see how they address this, if they address it at all, in the rest of the source material.
I'm definitely hoping they do. Because for me, real success isn't just about winning. It's about creating a culture that includes everyone, represents the whole country.
Couldn't agree more. So listener, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, keep that in mind. Does Morocco's vision for the future line up with your own hopes for the sport? Let's find out together in part 3.
Welcome back. As we wrap this up, our deep dive into the future of Moroccan football, I'm still kind of stuck on how much they're emphasizing long-term thinking, this whole sustainability thing. It's more than just a trendy word, right?
Oh, definitely. It's the bedrock of any success that lasts. Think of it like you don't build a skyscraper on sand, do you? You need a solid foundation, something that can weather any storm, stand the test of time.
Okay, so in the world of football, what are those building blocks? Is it all about having this Vision 2026 document, or is there more to it?
It's about creating a system that keeps renewing itself. Success at the top level fuels investment, development, all the way down. Think about the Premier League in England. It's not just those big clubs. Their academies, their scouting networks, even their lower leagues, they all feed into this thriving football culture. It's like a well-oiled machine, and every part matters.
So Morocco's trying to build something like that, but how do you actually go about doing that? Is it just about spending money, or is there a smarter way?
Money helps, sure, but it's got to be strategic. Remember those grassroots programs we talked about? That's where it starts. Make football accessible to everyone. Nurture that young talent. Create that pipeline of future stars.
But even with all the talent in the world, you need structure, a system to help them develop, right?
Absolutely. Coaching education, tactical awareness, even things like data analysis to pinpoint strengths and weaknesses. The source mentions how Morocco is using technology at that Mohammed VI football complex. They're not just stuck in the old ways.
Hold on, data analysis. That sounds pretty high-tech. How does that even work in football?
Imagine a system that tracks every pass, every shot, every single movement a player makes. Now use that data to find patterns, to spot potential before anyone else can even see it. That's the power of data analysis.
So you're saying they can use data to find the next Hakimi, even if he's playing in some tiny village somewhere. That's wild.
Exactly. And that's just one way tech is changing the game. Virtual reality training, personalized fitness plans, even AI scouting tools. Morocco seems to be all in on this stuff, which is a good sign for their future.
Okay, starting to see how it all comes together. They've got the vision, the infrastructure, the talent, and they're embracing technology. It does feel like something special is brewing.
It does, but we got to remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, tough times, moments of doubt. But if they stick to their goals, keep that focus on sustainability, inclusivity. The possibilities are endless.
That's what's so inspiring to me about all this. It's not just about winning. It's about using football as a force for good, empowering the whole country, building a future where everyone has a chance to chase their dreams.
Totally. It reminds us that success isn't just about individual talent. It's about teamwork, a shared vision, and believing in something bigger than yourself.
So listener, as we wrap up this deep dive, I have one last question for you. After hearing all this, what makes you most optimistic about the future of Moroccan football? Is it the talent, the system, the vision, or something else entirely? Hold on to that thought, because that's the starting point for your own exploration of this amazing story. And that's it for us today. We've covered a lot of ground, but this is just the beginning, right? Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep the passion for this beautiful game burning bright.
Absolutely. This deep dive was just a taste, a glimpse into the world of Moroccan football. There's so much more out there waiting to be discovered.